Hey there, fellowship. It is challenge time again. This month, we're going to learn a little solo arrangement that I wrote for you. It's a blues shuffle in E. Now, when I say solo arrangement, it's meant for you to play by yourself with no accompaniment. And although it would sound great with a bass player and drums, you don't really need that to make this little piece sound pretty darn cool. Now, the piece itself goes through a traditional 12-bar blues arrangement. And for the most part, we're just going to be playing these little two-note patterns in a shuffle rhythm and moving them around the fretboard. And there's also a couple of very cool traditional blues licks, almost cliches, if you will. Let's get into it. So there are two musical concepts that I want to talk about before we get into the song itself. When I say the song follows the traditional 12-bar blues format, this is what I mean. A blues song will typically have three chords, and a blues in E has the chords E7, A7, and B7. And the 12 bars break out as follows. There's 4 bars of E7, so that's bars 1 through 4. Bars 5 and 6, we're going to play A7, or what we call the 4 chord. Bars 7 and 8, we go back to E7, which is the root or the 1 chord. Bar 9, we play over a B7. Bar 10, we play A7. Bar 11, we go back to the 1 chord, which is E7. And then the 12th bar, we play over B7. And those last 2 bars of a blues we refer to as the turnaround. So it's the signal that the 12 bars are ending and we're going back to the beginning. So that's the format of the song, and we'll talk more about that shortly. We also need to talk about a shuffle rhythm. It's a very distinctive rhythm that you hear so often in the blues. So what is a shuffle beat? Well, a shuffle is an 8-note triplet, which obviously a triplet's got 3 notes in it, but we're going to drop the middle note out. So triplets, typically we would count 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And if I played that, that's triplets, but it doesn't really sound like the blues, right? But if we drop out that middle note and we would count it triplet, 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 we have that slight pause between the first and second notes of each pair. And to me, it always sounds like a horse walking along. Clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop. And then it sounds like this. And that's the very recognizable sound of a shuffle in a blues format. Another way of counting triplets would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and if we drop out the middle syllable, we'd get 1, 2, 3, 4. And there, again, is our shuffle feel. So for the song itself, most of the time, we're going to be playing little 2-note patterns. We're going to call these dyads. And then we're alternating that with a bass note, and that gives us our shuffle 8th notes. Now, in the first 4 measures, the bass note is going to be open, low, E. And we start with our patterns. I'm going to be at the 9th fret of the D string and the 11th fret of the A string. And we're going to find out as we get into this, there's really only 2 shapes when we're doing these little dyads. And one is this shape. Again, I'm 2 frets apart. I'm at frets 9 and 11 of the D and A string. And some of the other shapes, we're going to be 1 fret apart. For instance, frets 6 and 7 of the D and A string. But we'll get to that. So we start off with 9 and 11 on the A and D string, followed by our bass note. Then we go down 1 fret to 8 and 10, bass note again, then 7 and 9, and then 6 and 7. The first measure. Into the second measure, we go down to frets 4 and 5, followed by the bass note, 2 and 4, followed by the bass note, and then 2 and 2. So far we have then we hit our bass note again. And we do play an actual triplet on the last beat of that second measure. We're going to play frets 3 and 4 on the low E. I'm going to pick the note at the 3rd fret, hammer on to fret 4, and then play the 2nd fret on the D string. That whole thing. We're going to jump back up to frets 6 and 7 on the A string, 7 and 9, 8 and 10, 9 and 11. Then we're going to jump over to the D and G strings, and we're going to play frets 9 and 11 on G and D, 8 and 10, and then we get to frets 7 and 9, and we hold that out for 2 beats. So here's the whole thing so far. 1, 2, 3, 4. So probably the toughest part of that for you is going to be getting the shuffle rhythm and then sort of alternating between our little 2-note shapes and that bass note. The 2-note shapes are not going to be as difficult as you might initially think, because we're really only doing 2 shapes and we're just moving them around. So we've got the one shape with the 2 frets between the index and ring finger, and the other shape, the 1 fret between the index and the ring finger. So that was the first 4 bars over the E. Measures 5 and 6, we're going to be playing over A7. So we're going to shift our bass note to the A string, the open A string, and we're going to shift our patterns over to the D and G strings. And what we play is going to be pretty much identical to what we played in the first 2 measures over the E chord. We're going to walk these pattern downs. I'm starting at frets 9 and 11, 8 and 10, 7 and 9, 6 and 7, 4 and 5, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. And we play that as a half note. So that gets the last 2 beats of the 6th measure. The 7th measure, we're going back to E, and we're going to play the identical thing that we just played over the 2 bars of the A. I'm now on the D and A strings with the E as our bass. When I said identical, it's not on the same strings, it's the same pattern though. So we're gonna go 9, 11, 8, 10, 7, 9, 6, 7, 4, 6, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. Now we play that as a dotted quarter note, so that gets a beat and a half. On the last half of the beat of the 8th measure, we're going to play 2 16th notes. We're going to play an open A string, and then the 1st fret of the A string, so that's A sharp, and then measure 9, we go to the B7 chord. So we're going to play 4 notes of a B7 chord. I've got fret 2 of the A string, fret 1 of the D string, fret 2 of the G string, and my pinky is on fret 2 of the high E. And we hold that out until the last half of the 4th beat of that measure. Then we walk down from the 2nd fret of the A string, this is 2 16th notes again, to the 1st fret of the A string. And measure 10, we again play 4 notes that make up an A7 chord. We've got the open A string, and then I am barring the 2nd fret of the G and the B strings, and then I'm playing the 3rd fret of the high E with my 3rd finger. So that sounds like this. So that's bars 9 and 10. That leads us to the 11th bar, which we're going to play over E. And the last half of the 12th bar over the B7 again, that's what we call the turnaround. We've got a cool little blues lick that goes like this. So we're going to start that blues lick by playing the open low E. That's followed by frets 3 and 4 of the high E and then the open E string. Next, we're going to play the 3rd fret of the B string, followed by the open B string. Then we play fret 2 of the G string and an open G string. And then the 1st fret. So far, that little part sounds like. And to end things up, we're going to play the open A string, the 1st fret of the A string, and then we play a 3-note version of that B7 chord with, again, the 2nd fret of the A string, 1st fret of the D string, and 3rd fret of the G string. So those 2 bars sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the last half of the 4th beat of that measure, we have an open E, and the whole thing starts over. So here's these last 2 measures, and I'll play a little bit of what it sounds like going back into the song. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I've also included what we would call one of the standard endings for a blues tune, and we would play that after we play the 10th measure on the 2nd time through, or maybe the 4th or 5th time through, whenever you decide that you want to end it. Start by playing the unison notes of the open high E in the 5th fret of the B string, and then we walk right down the string, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret. All of these I'm playing twice in conjunction with that open E, and then I'm going to play the open B and E together once, followed by the open G, the 1st fret of the G, and the 2nd fret of the D string. And that's our E note root, so we're back to our root note. After we hit that root note, we take a pause for a beat to create a little drama, and then we strum an E7 chord and just let it ring. So E7, if you don't remember, I've got my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and I've got my index finger on the 1st fret of the G string. All the rest of the strings are open. So let me play bars 9, 10, and then that ending. So check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll play through the entire thing. We'll do it twice so that I can add that ending to it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I hope you like that one. Learning to play little boogies like that seems to be a rite of passage for most every guitarist. This is a fun one. It sounds cool. It's not too hard. Hit me up with any questions that you might have in the forum. As always, I can't wait to hear you guys playing it. Practice hard, have fun. I'll see you soon. Bye.